Death is the one thing every human being must face. From the moment we take our first breath, the clock of life begins to tick, leading us toward an inescapable truth. The Bible reminds us in Romans 5, verse 12, that death entered the world through sin, and since then it has touched every generation. No one can outrun it. No one can hide from it. It is the great equalizer. But what if I told you that 3 men in history defied this law? 3 men who never experienced death, who were taken away by God in ways so extraordinary that their stories continue to amaze believers today. Who were they? What made them so special? And more importantly, what can we learn from their lives? Enoch's story is one of the most mysterious and awe-inspiring accounts in the Bible. He wasn't a great warrior or a powerful king. He wasn't a prophet who called fire down from heaven or a leader who parted the sea. Enoch was simply a man who walked with God. But that alone made all the difference. Born into a world that was spiraling into darkness, Enoch was a rare light of righteousness. He was the great-grandfather of Noah, the man God would later use to save humanity from destruction. But long before Noah built the ark, Enoch was already showing what it meant to live a life completely devoted to God. The Bible tells us that for 365 years, Enoch's relationship with God was unlike anything seen before. He didn't just believe in God, he walked with him. Every step, every decision, every day was guided by his deep connection to the Creator. He didn't follow God out of obligation, but out of love and trust. And because of that, something extraordinary happened. Genesis 5:24 records a breathtaking event. Enoch walked with God, then he was no more because God took him away. Just like that, Enoch was gone. There was no death, no funeral, no grave. One moment he was walking on earth, and the next he was taken into heaven. But why? The book of Hebrews 11, verse 5 gives us the answer. By faith, Enoch was taken from this life so that he did not experience death. He could not be found because God had taken him away. For before he was taken, he was commended as one who pleased God. Enoch didn't escape death because he was powerful or famous. He didn't perform great miracles or rule a mighty nation. He was taken because he had faith. Faith so deep and unwavering that it pleased God in a way few others ever have. Imagine living in such close fellowship with God that he decides to bring you straight into his presence, sparing you from the pain of death. That was the extraordinary reward of Enoch's life. The story is not just about avoiding death. It is about the kind of life that led to such an incredible destiny. His legacy leaves us with a powerful question. Are we walking with God like Enoch did? Elijah, one of the greatest prophets in Israel's history, was also taken to heaven in a miraculous way. But unlike Enoch, his story was filled with fire, miracles, and confrontation. Elijah lived during a time of deep spiritual darkness. Israel had turned away from God, worshiping idols under the rule of King Ahab and Queen Jezebel. They promoted Baal worship, leading the nation into sin. In the midst of this, Elijah stood fearlessly for the Lord. One day, he made a bold declaration. There will be no rain except at my word. And just like that, the land fell into a severe drought. Crops withered, rivers dried up, and hunger spread everywhere. God was showing Israel that without him, they had nothing. During this time, Elijah experienced God's supernatural care. Ravens brought him food by a brook, and later, a poor widow fed him with flour and oil that never ran out. He even raised her son from the dead, a powerful sign of God's power. But the real showdown came on Mount Carmel. Elijah challenged the 450 prophets of Baal to prove who the real God was. They built altars and called on God, but nothing happened. Then Elijah prayed, and fire fell from heaven, consuming his sacrifice completely. The people fell on their faces, crying, "The Lord is God!" But despite this victory, Elijah faced threats from Jezebel, who wanted him dead. Fearful, he ran to the wilderness and asked God to take his life. But God had other plans. He sent an angel to feed him and led him to Mount Horeb, where Elijah encountered God, not in fire, wind, or an earthquake, but in a gentle whisper. Elijah's time was nearing its end. He passed his prophetic mantle to Elisha, his chosen successor. Then, one day, as the two walked near the Jordan River, something incredible happened. A chariot of fire, pulled by heavenly horses, appeared from the sky. In an instant, Elijah was taken up in a whirlwind, disappearing before Elisha's eyes. He never died. God had taken him directly into heaven. Elijah's life teaches us that even in the darkest times, God is in control. He is our provider, protector, and ultimate deliverer. And when we stand boldly for him, he will never abandon us. Lastly, Melchizedek. Melchizedek appears in Genesis 14, when Abraham, then called Abram, was returning from battle. Several kings had fought, and Abraham's nephew, Lot, was captured. Abraham gathered 318 men, defeated the enemy, and rescued Lot. On his way back, he met a strange and important figure, Melchizedek. The Bible describes him as both a king and a priest. This is unusual because in Israel, kings and priests were always separate roles. Yet, Melchizedek was called the King of Salem, which means peace, and a priest of the Most High God. He greeted Abraham with bread and wine, a clear foreshadowing of Jesus. Then he blessed Abraham, saying, "Blessed be Abram by God Most High, creator of heaven and earth." In response, Abraham gave him a tenth of everything he had, the first recorded act of tithing in the Bible. But here's the mystery. Who was Melchizedek? The book of Hebrews 7 verse 3 tells us that he had no father or mother, no genealogy, no beginning or end. This makes him unlike any other person in Scripture. Some believe he was a real historical king, while others think he was an appearance of Jesus before his birth. What makes Melchizedek even more important is that Jesus is compared to him. Psalm 110:4 says, "You are a priest forever in the order of Melchizedek." Unlike priests from the tribe of Levi, Jesus is a priest forever, just like Melchizedek. Melchizedek reminds us that God's plans go beyond what we see. His brief appearance in Genesis points directly to Jesus, showing that God was always preparing the way for salvation. Enoch, Elijah, and Melchizedek are unique figures in the Bible. They each had a special relationship with God, and their stories leave us with powerful lessons about faith, obedience, and God's eternal plan. Enoch walked so closely with God that he never experienced death. He teaches us that a deep relationship with God is possible, even in a sinful world. His life was a testimony that faith pleases God, and because of this, God took him directly into his presence. Elijah was a bold prophet in a time of darkness. He proved that God is the true and living God, performing miracles and standing firm against evil. Even when he was discouraged, God renewed his strength and purpose. His fiery departure into heaven reminds us that God's power is beyond human understanding, and he rewards those who serve him faithfully. Melchizedek is a mysterious figure, but his brief appearance in the Bible has a lasting impact. As both a king and a priest, he pointed to Jesus, the ultimate king and high priest. His story reminds us that Jesus' priesthood is eternal, and through him, we have direct access to God. These three men, one who walked with God, one who stood for God, and one who foreshadowed Jesus, show us what it means to live a life of faith. Their stories are not just about their escape from death, but about the kind of lives that lead to such an extraordinary reward. God is calling each of us to walk with him, to stand for truth, and to trust in his eternal plan. If we live with faith like Enoch, courage like Elijah, and devotion like Melchizedek, we can experience God's power, presence, and promises in our own lives. Will you choose to walk with God today? If this message has blessed you, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with others, and leave a comment below. Let us know which story inspired you the most. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an opportunity to grow in faith.